When you're working with Active Directory, it can contain a variety of objects. So you can have users, groups, managed service accounts, computers, shared folders. I mean, all kinds of things can be inside Active Directory. And it'll grow and change and adapt with your network over time. You also have group policies that can control what people can and cannot do. And then that hopefully will grow and change over time as your needs evolve. But when you install Active Directory, it pre-populates a bunch of default objects. So let's take a look at those. We're not going to look at creating, managing, doing anything like that. We're going to do that in other videos later. But for the moment, let's just look at what Active Directory gives us by default. So we're going to go to two places. We're going to start here. We're going to go to Tools, Active Directory Users and Computers. And in here, you're going to see Active Directory users and computers, saved queries, and then the domain. And then within this domain, you're going to see a bunch of different folders. Now, technically, domain controllers, you can see this little different icon. This is not a folder. This is an organizational unit. But let's walk through some of these. So built-in has a bunch, I'm going to maximize this, give us a little more room, has a bunch of built-in security groups. And so those security groups are predefined with specific functions or capabilities that they have. So for example, let's look at server operators. Members can administer domain servers. We have performance log users. So members of this group may schedule login information. We have Hyper-V administrators. We have backup operators. Backup operators can override security restrictions for the sole purpose of backing up and restoring files. So we have all of these predefined groups, and if we add users to these groups, then they get those permissions. Computers, this is a folder where computers are going to go by default. So unless you create a computer account somewhere else, if you join a computer to the domain, it's going to pop up in here. Now, these are folders, not organizational units. You cannot apply group policies to a folder. They can only be applied to an organizational unit. That's what's different about domain controllers. You notice the icon difference here. This is an organizational unit. And we should have one thing, and I haven't joined any other computers to this domain, by the way, which is why everything is empty. But you're going to see here we have server 1. That is a global catalog server. That's DC type, GC. You can see the site. We'll deal with that later on. But this is going to be where all of our domain controllers are located at. And we put them in here so we can apply group policies to these domain controllers. Foreign security principles we're not dealing with right now. Managed service accounts, same thing. We'll deal with that later. Users, this is where we have all of our default users. Now, we actually only have 2 users. We have the guest user right here. You can tell by the icon and then by the fact that, it says user. This is currently disabled. So that's what this little icon means. It looks like a person's got a little down arrow there beside it. I know it's kind of small and hard to read. But that is where that identifies this account as disabled. You can't log into it. We have our administrative user. Now, this is the administrator user. This is so I installed the operating system, used the default administrator, and then used that to install Active Directory. So this becomes my global administrator. So that's built-in account for administering. But you'll notice I've got a bunch of other things here that are other security groups that give me more options to control what users can do, kind of like the built-in groups that we saw up here. But here I have a few different ones. So I have domain admins. These are designated administrators for the domain. If I want to give somebody permission to administer the domain, I add them to domain admins. Enterprise admins gives enterprise-wide. So if I've got a multiple domain forest, I could use an enterprise admin to be able to admin everything across the forest. And then schema admins, this is one that we use very rarely. We only use this when we are updating the schema of Active Directory somewhere. So this default administrator account, I'm going to go ahead and open it up. Whoops, let's try that again. Look at member of, they are local administrator, domain admin, enterprise admin, and schema admin. And then they also have group policy creator owners and the domain users. Pretty much everybody has domain users unless you take that out, and most people don't. Okay, so here, this is a bunch of predefined users groups. Those are pre-built Active Directory objects. Now I want to take a look at one more thing while we're talking about default Active Directory objects, and that is group policies. So we're going to go to Tools, and we're going to find Group Policy Management right here. We're going to open that up, and we're going to go in more detail into users, groups, computers, group policies, all of that. We're going to go into more detail in this a little bit later on. So here's my group policy management. This gives me all of my domains. Under my domain, right here, I have a linked group policy, and then I have all of my organizational units here, which the only one I have right now is domain controllers, and underneath that, I have a linked group policy. So these are linked here. They don't actually live here. You'll notice the little policy and that little link icon. They actually live here in group policy objects. So this is where they exist, but they don't take any effect until they're linked to a site, a domain, or an organizational unit. So if I want to see one of these, I can click on one of the links. Let's look at our default domain policy. Yep, I know. So default domain policy, this tells me it's located here at dalton.local. We're going to talk about enforced and enabled and things like that later on, as well as security filtering. If I go to details, shows me a little bit more about it, whether it's enabled or disabled. Settings is where it's actually going to show me what is in here. Now this is hilarious. This actually opens up as an HTML page. So I need to view it using an integrated IE, Internet Explorer, but our Internet Explorer Enhanced Security configuration is active, which means it doesn't trust that this is actually safe. I'm going to add the site, click add, and then close. And then it's going to show me all of my settings. So here's my general settings, and then here are my actual group policy settings. So I can expand these, say show me my security settings, and then this will show me all of my settings as I expand these different areas that are controlled by this particular group policy. All right, we have two of them. We have a domain policy and a domain controllers policy. Now, again, later on, we're going to take a closer look at this, and we're actually going to do some work with group policies. But I just wanted to show you this is what we have pre-configured when we install Active Directory and upgrade to a domain on a new system.